Hello, one and all. Talking football, JT and Mike Martz here. It's November. November, usually when the separation starts, really in the standings and the playoff races take place. You know, Mike, all season long, and I'm looking back different weeks. It's the 25th anniversary of your greatest show team. As offensive coordinator and the Super Bowl victory. We had a great time at the little reunion that Isaac Bruce had. But thinking of separation, I remember and I'm sure this is clear as day to you. You guys started out 6-0. It's so hard to win in this league. So hard to win. You go up to Detroit week 7. No, excuse me. Week 7 was Tennessee.
Right.
And everybody's wondering, okay, now the Rams are playing a quality opponent. How will they do? And at halftime, they're saying, see, I mean, remember you guys were down 21-0. Then you rallied furiously and almost pulled that thing off. I think it was 24-21. Mike, that comeback, how important was it for the team psyche to say, yeah, we're among the best. We belong where we're at so far?
Well, I think it's really important at halftime. I learned this from Chuck Knock years ago. I've been on halftime to where you're behind and there's a lot of chair throwing and carrying on. But he said, you just got to show them how they're going to win the second half. And so we got our guys together and here's what's happened. And we just take it play at a time and just work our way back into this thing. And we came back out and we changed what we were doing. We started throwing the ball. We really felt like we might be able to run the ball against them, but they were really a good front. And they were always getting an extra guy down in there in the run game. So they started throwing football, and before you know it, we got 21 points on the board. Then we're on that final drive. I think we got down to the 24-yard line, which is an easy kick for Wilkie. But then guy came through and ran into him when he kicked it.
Right.
And blew him up. In fact, hurt him. And they threw the flag, which should have got us a first down. And they picked the flag up.
Picked it up.
To this day, I don't know why they picked it up.
One of the plays in that game, it had nothing to do with actually, catching a pass or running, but it was, to me, one of the plays that signified the greatest show. You've talked about it before. Was
Oz?
Yes. You're in the 2-minute drill. Who was it? Marshall actually help pick up Oz off the turf. Well, you describe what you recall from that.
So we're out of timeouts. What we were trying to do, because they could rush the passers so well, is we're trying to change protections on them.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are times when we had to get different personnel in, had to call timeout and whatnot. And you just couldn't, you had to wait. So we had to huddle on those play calls. So we had to use our timeouts. Otherwise, we would have gotten sacked. We said bring 2 more guys, and we just weren't prepared for it. So this is a long pass down the field off of what we call a sprint out, basically a half roll. And, he's gassed by now. They're all gassed.
Yeah.
That makes a great catch, and he gets hammered and knocked the wind out of him, aside from being very tired. And he was going to lay there like they're going to stop the clock. We're not going to stop the clock. So Marshall ran over and picked him up and told him to get up and get in a stance so we could kill it, and of course he did. And we got the ball down to the 24-yard line, and I felt, well, tie this one up. We'll get this one, put this one in the bag, and it didn't work that way. And then next week was even more tragic. We go ahead at the end of the game up in Detroit.
Yes.
We throw Ryan Tucker a touchdown to go ahead. Now they've got to score a touchdown to win it.
Uh-huh.
I don't think they have a minute left in the game.
Right.
We have them like 3rd and 30 or 3rd and 25, and they complete it. And then they go down and throw a touchdown to beat us. That broke that one just yeah. There was a coffee cup thrown through the wall there. Yeah.
31-27. Was that still in the old Silverdome?
Yes.
Yeah. And I don't know if it resulted in a touchdown. I don't know if you even remember this, but I remember there was a play, Detroit's driving, and Tajay Allen thinks it's still a college rule. Your defensive back, Tajay Allen. The receiver hits the ground without being touched. And Tajay thinks he's down and doesn't touch him. Did he score on that play, the Detroit player, or no?
I don't think so, but it was a big gainer.
Yeah.
I don't remember the particulars. I remember that happening. I don't think they scored on that play. I don't think, but I don't remember that. most of the time when we're on defense, I'm looking at my call sheets. I see bits and pieces of the defense.
Yeah, yeah. So you're 6-2 then, and some people say, "See, there's some cracks in the foundation," but no, you guys reeled off, I think, 7 straight wins, and then in Philly to end the season, Vermeil pulled a lot of guys. Marshall Faulk might have had 1,000 yards in that game. That might have been Andy Reid's first year in Philly.
Andy Reid's first year, Marshall had, I think, 130 yards in the first quarter.
The first quarter, yeah.
And I mean, we jumped on them. We could have beat them by 50, I think. But
yeah,
and we would have beat them with the other guys. But our running backs fumbled 3 times, and we're moving the ball going into score.
Right.
The ball 3 times, and they got all their points at the end of the game off that to beat us. So,
but after those first 2 losses, I remember the Detroit and the Tennessee, the game in Nashville. Remember Georgia saying, I don't know if she told, I think maybe it was John Shaw. She was big on astrology, and she said it was because Mercury was in retrograde.
No, I think we were in retrograde for those 2 weeks, and then we came out of retrograde and went to retro forward, I guess.
Yeah. So you were never big on astrology, my man?
No, she's talked to me about that all the time. And no, I'm not. No.
Yeah. Well, again, the separation began for you guys in November, and the rest is history. So as we get into November, let's so much to cover. Let's get into some quick week 9 results. We're officially, basically, with the 17-game schedule at the midpoint of the season. Half the teams have played, roughly half the teams have played 9 games. There are some teams that have played just 8. I wanted to ask you, Mike, about the Thursday night game. This is the you got me on this one, and I picked the Texans. You went with the Jets, and turns out, as you frequently are on matters dealing with football, you were right. The Jets beat the Texans 21-13. Aaron Rodgers a tough first half, 32 yards passing, but then he throws for 3 touchdowns in the second half, including Devontae Adams' first touchdown catch as a Jet since the trade. Jets snap a 5-game losing streak, their first win under interim coach Jeff Ulbrich. C.J. Stroud, Mike, once again, he's pressured constantly. This has gone on for several weeks. He doesn't look that confident anymore.
Well, you wouldn't either. He's getting hammered.
Yeah.
He hits his back foot to throw, and they're just killing him. And their protections are so bad, and they're not changing them. That's what bothers me, the lack of coaching where you got to you go to a 7-man or even an 8-man protection if you have to. You're going to throw it. But, my gosh, don't play the open-edge football with maybe a back here. So you got to help the tackles. But they're getting hammered right up inside, too. They just going to block anybody. They can hold water.
Yeah.
So I think that it's going to be tough for them. It really is, unless they just absolutely do what Detroit's formula. You're going to run it and then pick and choose your hard play actions and get it down to just a few third downs and convert them. It's going to be hard. But I will say this about the Jets: they could be in the last 3 games. They very easily could be 3-0.
Well, yeah.
The kicker, and that's what I look at. They were played well enough to win both those games. Should have won them. The kicker was bad. Yeah. So in my mind,
turns out he was hurt. Turns out Zerline was hurt, and he's on IR now. But yeah.
So
they'd be Mike. They'd be it's the difference between being 3-6 and 5-4.
Yes, no question. And this is a team that'll rise out of the ashes here now. I don't know what their schedule is, but they'll be fine coming out there, and everybody all the boo birds will go away, and they're just not playing as well defensively as I thought they would, but they're okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting to watch the Jets, but Mike, I looked this up. It seems every week either the Jets or the Giants or maybe both are on prime time. The networks must think we're obsessed with watching the Jets and Giants. They've been on a combined Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, Thursday Night Football 8 times. The Jets 5 times, the Giants 3 times. I thank God we have a moratorium on like over the air TV and when no Jets or Giants this week. I'm happy about it. I don't know about you.
I thought that halfway through the season they could adjust those Monday night games, and change why they would continue to do that. I guess I think because the New York TV market's so large, the East Coast market, but
Yeah.
nobody cares about either one of those teams.
Especially with the one-loss record. Now, a few other games I want to touch on. Ravens 41, Broncos 10, Ravens 6-3. We talked about this last week, how, the the Broncos were kind of punching up in class. Let's see how they do. They're really playing a prime team. And it wasn't pretty, Mike. The Ravens scored on 7 straight possessions. Lamar Jackson, perfect game in passer rating, 158.3. This is after he missed a couple days of practice, resting some knee issues and back issues. But he had 280 yards and 3 touchdown passes on just 19 attempts, 16 completions. I'm seeing a lot of games like this, Mike, where quarterbacks are having, good Jared Goff especially, where they're like 15 out of 18 or 17 out of 20. I guess it's just teams with good running games, huh?
Yes, no question. It's all about being able to run the ball effectively like they've been doing. Getting into first downs after 2 downs, right? Not having third downs, even rushing the ball. And you get into that rhythm, and you're hard to slow down. The Broncos going into that game were really good on defense, by the way.
Yeah.
When you look at them statistically, I think the Broncos were at least a top 10, maybe even higher on defense as a team.
Right.
So this isn't to say the Broncos were awful. I mean, and you have games like that. But that was less about how bad the Broncos are and more about, Baltimore just hitting on all cylinders.
Yeah. And Mike, you mentioned that Baltimore now 6-3. Really, don't you think they have 2 MVP candidates in both Jackson and Derrick Henry? Zay Flowers is turning into a true number 1 receiver. They just they look so dominant most of the time. How in the world do they have 3 losses?
Well, I think early in the season they're trying to figure out a little bit who they were on defense too, because defensively they weren't playing very well at the beginning of the year, if you recall.
Right.
Then they got going on defense, and when you start scoring points like they've been doing, now you make the opponent a one-dimensional team, and that's what we always try to do, and force them into got to throw it deal, and you can pin your ears back. And I think that's really helped them. But they're still not rushing and passer like they have in the past. But and I just think the 1-2 punch on offense. Which one of those guys deserves it more? It wouldn't make any difference where you handle either one of them. I think they're both deserving.
Yeah. Bills at Dolphins. Tyler Bass, 61-yard field goal as time expired, a franchise record. I mean, this is the year of the long field goal, 30-27 victory. The guy Bass missed his 3rd PAT of the season earlier in the game. Otherwise, he doesn't need that long field goal. The Bills had brought in a practice squad place kicker a couple of weeks ago to kind of force him. But the Bills seem to, in their own way, maybe not as dramatic as KC, they seem to find a way to win more often than not. They're 7-2 now, Mike.
Well, and they got Cook back to runner, which is a big deal. They're not nearly as good as they were in the previous years on defense. They've been trying to find that wide receiver. Finally pick one up. So they're going to be there when the dust settles in the Final Four. I don't think there's any question about that. But I don't know just how good defensively they are, whether they can hold up against a team like Baltimore.
A lot of injuries on that side of the ball, too, though.
A lot of injuries. I think it's as well coached team as there is in the league right now. But I think Josh Allen, you talk about MVP candidate, you got to talk about him as well.
Yeah. The Dolphins now 2-6. Their last 2 losses have been excruciating. Last-second losses. Tua now back. He looked good. 25 of 28, 2 touchdowns, 231 yards. They've got both the running backs now. Is there any, maybe 2-6 is too deep of a hole, but it seems to me they're playing better now. Maybe they can win some games. No,
I think they're probably the one team you got to keep an eye on in terms of just making a run here. I like the Jets in that respect. I think they're both those teams are rising out of the ashes. They're better than the Jets, I believe. With the 2 runners now and Tua, and of course you got Hill. They'll get back to their old form, and they're scary on offense when you got to line up against them.
Yeah, looks like they're getting it back. Our Lions, I say our Lions, my favorite team. I know your favorite team, 24-14 over the Packers. This was the game of the week last week. It was the Lions' first outdoor game of the season. They're now 7-1. The temperature was in the 40s, raining heavily. A lot of people, oh, a dome team. You heard some of these same things with the Rams in St. Louis. There was no problem for the Lions. Now, they played maybe a little differently, but they were, to me, they were more dominant than the 24-14 score, the win over the Packers.
Yeah, I mean, the Packers score there at the end to make it look like it was a close game, but it never was. They dominated from the get-go. And Love, I mean, they just hammered him. They couldn't protect him. And I think Detroit up front is getting better and better. Now they picked up the free agent, the pass rusher from – I'm drawing a blank. Can you help me on this? They picked him up in the free agency here at the last second. So they've got somebody trying
or at the trade deadline, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So they've got somebody to help with the Hutchinson thing, but I don't know that they'll need it, but at least they did it,
Yeah. Okay, last game from week 9 we want to talk about, the Monday night game, Chiefs 30, Buccaneers 24. It was one of the 3 overtime games. Myself, just watching the game, I thought very early, I got the sense, and the announcers, they're great, Buck and Aikman, but even the sideline people in the studio, throughout the game, they just subtly talked how the Chiefs got this. It's inevitable. I got the feeling pretty early on that the Bucks were going to be a tough out in the game. I really liked the Bucks, how they played in Baker Mayfield. It just wasn't enough on this day.
They can beat anybody anytime. Now they got their nose blood here a few weeks ago, but yeah, they're a team that's going to be, I think they'll be a playoff team and they have a chance of being in the playoff team. But in Baker Mayfield, he gets hot. He's hard to stop. I just think that they're good enough on both sides of the ball, and they'll tell you how good Kansas City really is too. Does Kansas City play 14 out of 16 games at home this year? Man, are all these games at home?
Actually, Mike, it had been a few. It was like it seems that way, but it was like their first home game in a month. So they'd been on the road. They're playing better though, Mike. The Chiefs, Mahomes, DeAndre Hopkins, he had 8 catches, couple touchdown catches. Kelsey, career high 14 catches, his first 100-yard game in 17 games. I mean, to me, he doesn't look like he has the maybe big playability, but he's still got some savvy, huh?
Yeah, he's got such great awareness. He and the quarterback are on the same page. They improvise at times, but he can't run like he used to. He just can't. Those legs are gone.
Yeah. Mahomes, you talk about great on third down. 11 out of 13 on third down. All 4 Chiefs touchdowns came on third down. And any keys to good third down defense, Mike?
Don't play the sticks. That's what we used to do. You go back and look at
Don't play the sticks.
You go back and look at us when we're scoring all those points, and I'll bet 2/3 of them were third down throws. Because in those days, they play the quarter defense like they're doing now, quarter, half, and all quarter defenses. Mm-hmm. They level out the sticks, particularly on 3rd and 10, 3rd and 8, and you go right by them, and that's what they do. You got to play the whole field there. They're all of a sudden defensively, they feel like, just keep them, from the sticks, but it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
We always had a deep throw on third down, regardless, as a choice.
Yeah, a lot of times when they play the sticks, you come back for the ball, and when you need 9, you get 8 or whatever. How many times have you seen that? A bunch of times. I could
make a highlight reel for you of our guys without even a pump move or a fake, just run right by a corner, and the corner's settling on the sticks.
It's kind of sitting on a route, yeah.
Well, they're sitting on. They think you're gonna, the first down. You just run right by them,
Yeah.
And the zone stuff, and I think that's great planning on their part. Obviously, they're very creative, and on those downs, you kind of pigeonhole yourself on terms of coverages too.
Yeah,
you can be fairly predictable. And anytime you get a team that's predictable and you're good on offense, then yeah, it's fun then.
Mike, Derek Carr returned for the Saints last week. Alvin Kamara had a great game, 155 yards rushing, 60 yards receiving, and they still lost. The Saints lost 23-22 to the Panthers. Dennis Allen gets fired. I guess the moral to the story, their 7th straight loss. It's the most since, like, I think the Super Bowl season, the Rams 99 Super Bowl season. I guess the moral of the story is don't lose to the Panthers. Dennis Allen out. 2nd coaching change here this season.
Yeah, I think the Panthers are the worst team in the league, but I don't know what's going on down there. There's something wrong in the locker room there. I don't know that he's a guy that Carr is a guy that really the locker room behind at quarterback. I don't know that. I just read some bad things and it's doesn't sound very good. I think he's a really good player, but something's going on that's just not right. They're too talented to be the way they are.
Yeah. That further example of the NFL standing for not for long. Remember, it seems like a lifetime ago. After 2 games, they'd scored 91 points, and we're all, wow, look at this, and what an offense. And granted, some injuries came in, but since then they've lost 7 in a row. They've averaged only 16.6 points per game. Now, the Raiders fired their offensive coordinator, Luke Gatzey, their offensive line coach, and their quarterbacks coach. How strange is that? How do you get a staff? You're replacing 3 staff guys. How do you do that midstream here?
Well, there's obviously a difference in opinion on either between that group they fired, and there's been some bickering on that side of the ball, so they got rid of the mess, or they don't agree with the head coach. It's one of those 2 things. Whichever it is, they had to go. Because whatever happened with that staff obviously trickles right to the players and influences them. They just were not very creative. They needed something, and he's fighting for his life as a head coach. So, I don't know who they hired or who they replaced him with, but it's not good.
Yeah. A part of me thinks kind of, okay, you let Josh Jacobs walk in the offseason. You traded Devontae Adams early in the season, and you're thinking Gardner Minshew is going to lead you to the promised land at quarterback. Part of me thinks, what were you expecting with all these factors?
Right. I mean, the only thing about that, though, JT, is I think that it's how well they compete. Whether they are how successful is almost a different matter. If you're not talented and you're competing your ass off and you're getting beat, then that's tolerable.
Right.
You're just not good enough. But if they're not competing and they're not good, that's bad.
It's a losing formula. Hey, we'll be right back with our second segment, which of course includes Ask Mike after these messages.
Let me get this straight. Graybar is a distributor?
Yep. For more than 150 years, we supported electrical and datacom projects all over the country.
So you can get me products wherever and whenever I need them?
Yep. Thanks to our expansive national logistics network.
For any industry?
Yep. From construction sites and industrial plants to schools, hospitals, and just about everything in between.
So you could say Graybar is much more than a distributor?
Yep, you could say that.
They really do it all.
Yep. When you need a hand powering, connecting, or maintaining your operations, join the thousands of professionals who rely on Graybar to help keep them up and running. Yep, Graybar does that.
We are back. As we mentioned at the outset, we're at midseason. Mike, at midseason, 3 divisions interest me. The AFC East, I guess, interests me more than others. The Bills, they have a 4-game lead over the Jets in search of their 5th straight division title. How do you keep a team motivated? I mean, it's just a matter of fact they're going to win the division, you would think. How do you keep a team motivated?
Well, I don't think that's ever an issue when that happens. You got a little bit of momentum going, and you play to your own standard, each week. And it's what we used to tell our guys all the time. It's what we do, not what they do. We have to prepare for them, in terms of X's and O's and identify any big playmakers. But really, let's focus on how well we're playing, and we can control that. So I think what happens when you get your knees broke here is when you start trying to figure out how good you're going to play just to beat somebody. You know what I mean? Instead of just playing at your standard each week. And the really good teams do that. And I think they're one of those good teams. I just think that I don't know how far they can go with that defense.
Yeah. The NFC North, I mean, the Bears have kind of fallen a little bit here the last couple of weeks, but the Vikings seemingly in command, 7-1. They've already beaten their top two contenders, the Vikings and the Packers. The Vikings 6-2, the Packers 6-3. If you're the Lions, you obviously you still got work to do, but the Lions, they're clearly when you say the class of this division.
Yeah, they're the class of the NFC right now. I think they're the team beating the league, and I think the two best teams are Baltimore, and even though I know Kansas City's undefeated, et cetera, but Baltimore and Detroit are I think, the two best teams. And I know they've got 3 losses, Baltimore, but it's how they're playing and how they're coming down the stretch, like you were saying a minute ago. And you just find another gear now. The good teams, they just do. They find another gear, and I think Detroit's got that momentum going, like we're talking about, and like in Buffalo. So I think the Bears are going to fall off the map. Anytime you have player meetings with the coach and you hold hands, you sing "Kumbaya, my Lord," and is everything okay? That touchy-feely stuff. You need to find another head coach. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Not in favor of those, huh?
No. They weren't. You're not a group psychologist, for crying out loud. You're a football coach. There's a leadership role. You're there to give the team direction, not take their temperature. Give me a break.
Yeah. NFC West is fascinating. Who would have thought Arizona now, 5-4, they've won 3 straight. They're in first place. The Rams and 49ers both have already had their byes. They're both 4-4. And the Seahawks, after a 3-0 start, are 4-5. Can Arizona have some staying power here? What do you think?
No, they're not good enough. I think some of it has to do with who they played and how things have worked out. But ultimately, I don't think they're good enough. Everything's based around the quarterback. They're not good enough everywhere else to really sustain it. I don't
kind of a feast or famine with Kyler Murray. Then
he has a bad day. They're not going to win. They're not good enough everywhere else. I think the best team coming out of that whole group is probably the Rams. Now that they're healthy and making a comeback, I think they'll be hard for anybody to beat.
Yeah. Okay, pick wise, Mike. You go 8-1. You're hot. We're both hot. I go 7-2. I don't know why I picked the Texans, but you've been pretty staunch lately on the Jets. We talked a little bit about this before. Who's your MVP right now? I'm going to throw out Jared Goff, Derrick Henry, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. Who's your MVP here at the midpoint?
I think it's down to 2 to me, either Lamar or Josh. Mm-hmm. And they both mean so much to their team. They don't win at all without those guys. They'll still win without the running back. Without Henry, they'll still win. They've proven that. But I just think how much they mean to a team. I think of those 2 guys. And without Josh Allen, I don't know how good Buffalo would be.
Yeah. Because they clearly at the skill positions, I don't think have some of the talent that some of the other.
Well, who can do what they do? Who can do what those 2 guys do? I mean, they're both in their own way. They're different, and yet they're kind of similar. They can both beat you with their legs, and yet they've got terrific passing skills. So I don't know. I just either one of those guys to me would be the most deserving.
Now, only one team in the Super Bowl era has started a season 2-7 and made the playoffs. The 2-7 teams right now: New England, Cleveland, Jacksonville, Vegas, New York Giants, Carolina, New Orleans. You don't see any of them making some kind of miracle run.
No, they're chasing the first pick in the draft, all of them.
Now, there's a couple of 2-6 teams that have had their bye, Tennessee and Miami. Tennessee, really good defense, but just no hope with the quarterback situation. And you mentioned earlier, kind of keep an eye on Miami, huh?
I think Miami, of all the teams that have that losing record right now, that's the best team. And I think they've got a real chance if they can stay healthy, because Tua is just lights out in the running game. And I think they've got a real chance of making a dent in things here come down the stretch.
Yeah. Did you see some of the touchdown celebrations this week? All of a sudden, saw a couple. I think one was Amon St. Brown. He did like a headstand or whatever. Did you see any of those?
No, I didn't. I tried not to watch them. be honest with you.
The celebrations?
No,
Wait a minute. You guys invented the bob and weave so much so that your first year at head coach, they banned celebrations. So you don't watch them, huh?
No, they did. They were upset. I got lambasted in that first meeting for it. When Isaac against San Francisco did one of these deals when he scored his third touchdown in the first quarter.
Oh, the throat slash, yeah.
Yeah, of course I got mauled on that one too. But took some hits on behalf of my guys in those meetings.
So you show up there at the meeting. I don't know. Was it in Arizona that year?
It was in Florida.
It was in Florida.
Okay.
Okay.
You in the hall when you asked me about it, actually before I went in the room. I saw you right before I walked in the room. You asked me about that whole celebration thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said, I don't know if it's a big deal. I walked in and it's just like bam, 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 bam.
But you're feeling good. You've won the Super Bowl. You're now the head coach with Dick Vermeil. You're probably thinking you're going to go down there and people are going to be patting you on the back. But no,
it was just the opposite. There was a lot of snarling and sneering, and the only guy that was really, really just classy throughout was obviously Andy. Andy and his wife our wives became good friends. And
Andy Reid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just the best. He just is.
He's great. Mike, way back when I covered Mizzou in the late 80s, early 90s, he was, at least for part of the time, he was a tight ends coach and offensive line assistant, and got to know him a little. Yeah, just the best. What a great guy, Andy Reid. So Andy was nice to you. The rest of him, though?
And he was real good. Of course, Dick wasn't there then. He wasn't in the league yet. Cower was really good. He was also very respectful. But
Dennis Green, leading the competition committee, just banned that awful little
snarled. Just snarled the whole time.
Didn't have anything to do with you guys. What did you score? 35 unanswered points in the second half of that playoff game.
Yeah, he saw the dance too much, I think. Yeah, I think he went to bed that night dreaming of that dance. The bob and weave.
And now you look, and I've mentioned this before, they're like choreographed Broadway musicals now, and it's okay now.
Yeah, right. Isn't that funny in betting too, right? You can't, if we even drove by Las Vegas as a football coach in the NFL, I mean, you were going to get banned for life sort of thing. It was ridiculous. They didn't want you anywhere near Vegas or betting on anything. Yeah. Right? And now
they have a team there.
Yeah, now they just embrace the whole thing with this online.
The stadium's right off the strip.
No, they can't make up their mind. It's all about money.
I think they made up their mind. They like the money. Okay, ask Mike. Here on Talking Football, we ask you to either contact me on Twitter at JTom1. Many of you follow me. I still get questions there. You can just reply, or you can email me jtom72@outlook.com. We still get some great questions. Our first one, we've got a couple this week. This is Jack from Arnold. Arnold, right down the road from me at my Oakville headquarters, talking about the Kansas City Tampa Bay game at the end, where Tampa scores and they have a chance to they choose to kick the field goal. What Jack from Arnold wants to know: Do you, Mike Martz, go for two versus Kansas City in that situation, and why or not?
It kind of depends on that. Always depends on how you feel about what you have for that situation and how good they are defensively on. If you feel golden on that, there are a couple games when I know they can't stop this, and I'd be happy to do it. And there's other times where it's kind of a roll of dice, and it really depends on how you're playing at that point too.
Yeah,
defensively, and if you can get them out and you got it going on offense, and you don't mind extending the game. If you don't think that you can hang in there, you go for two.
Yeah. Well, what would you have done there? Do you know, or just watching the game?
Yeah, I think he did the right thing.
That's the feeling I got watching. It's just kind of a gut feeling, like you alluded to, right?
It is. I think the thing you have to realize though about Mahomes too is I don't think anybody in the history of football is as good in those moments as he is.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing you got to keep in mind too. You know what I mean? Because if you don't get the ball, you're not going to ever get it again.
The look on Mahomes' face at the coin toss when they had the first choice, I'm like, okay, it's over. I mean, he looks so confident.
Well, and that's what you got to look at. I think any other quarterback, I mean, I think you'd have to really consider going for 2 at that point. Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that whole thing. Yeah.
How many did I'm thinking this. I'm asking the obvious here, but did you go into each game with a list of 2-point conversion plays?
Yeah. Usually about 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
And not for those situations, but for plays other than goal line offense inside the 3 or 4 yard line.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that if it's 4th and goal from the 4 yard line, you're not going to go to that goal line. You're going to go for with a 2-point play.
Right.
So it's a situation nil that is also 2-point plays.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure it would change from week to week, partly because of the opponent.
Oh yeah, based on what they do and personnel matchups. Yeah, no question. But there's some things you could roll over from week to week. Not very often, but we did do that.
Yeah. Okay. Our second question comes from Michael Bibbs. Now this was via email, and I like to at least find out where they're from, but he didn't list it, and I didn't have time to contact it. But he's going back to your 2003 season as head coach. If you beat Carolina in that 2003 playoff game, does that change the trajectory for 2004 and beyond? And he's kind of saying in his mind, he thought the 03 team, that was kind of the end of the greatest show on turf.
I will say no, it wouldn't make any difference, even if we won the Super Bowl then, because they're dismantling the team. And I didn't know that at the time, but obviously Stan had made that decision. The front office made the decision to dismantle it and get it prepared to move. I think George at that time had cancer. They knew she had cancer. Nobody else knew it. And Stan came out, and that's why they lost that lawsuit. He came out, you know, in that interview, I think you and I talked about in LA when they announced the move.
Right.
Frank Cusimano asked him something about when this started. He said, hey, we've been doing this since 03. Well, actually, it was from 01.
Mm-hmm.
After we lost the Super Bowl, I talked to John, and he intimated to me at that time that they would like to move the team back. So
that's the first I heard of that. After the 01
the old season. Yeah, he said, you know, he just said, hey, Coach Martz, we'd love to have the team back in LA. And he said that in passing. I didn't really put much credence to it, but he kept talking about it. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
You know, but I didn't think anything about it. And then, you know, from when you look after 01, we didn't have from the 01 season to 03, 9 of the 11 starters on defense were gone.
Right.
They walked them all out of there. You know, they didn't want us to win is what it comes down to. Right. So,
wow. Well, myself, and you probably disagree with this. I think part of it is a salary cap area. You had so many stars at that time.
No, salary cap had nothing to do with it. I know salary
you can't keep all of them.
No, you can't, but there's no reason to let London Fletcher out of here.
True.
Yeah, we certainly could afford him. Grant Wistrom would have stayed for half the salary.
I think of a guy, Ryan Pickett, that was let go. The 1 year, or was this? Yeah, he was part of your 01 draft.
Yes, he was.
That when he left, they said, "Hey, our Jay told me." I said, "Ryan Pickett's pretty good against the run. Why do you let him go?" He said, "Well, did you look? We're 29th against the run."
Yeah, that's his fault, right?
Well, you don't let Isaac Bruce go because you're finished 20th or whatever in passing offense.
No, they were 20. This is after this. We weren't that against run when I was there.
Right.
Ryan Pickett. So what happened?
Pickett left after you. Was
afterwards. Yeah. So what happened is you lose London Fletcher and all those linebackers.
Right.
Jay got rid of London Fletcher. Yeah. He and Lovey, while I was there, unbeknownst to me, without getting into all that just brings back some ugly memories. But they were purging the roster behind my back, and I didn't know what was going on, and I couldn't stop it.
Well, last thing I'll mention on this, and then we'll go to a break and come back and talk about next week's games. I remember you came down. I don't know what year it was. I think maybe it was 04. You came down to the media room, which you do a lot. You would do a lot of times, like early in the evening or whatever, just to say hi, not just to me, but the group. But one time it was just me there. You came down and you dropped a flip card, the flip card that lists the depth chart. And you had marked in yellow marker. It was a 2 deep, and it was all the players you had lost for whatever reason, free agency, trade, release. There was a lot of yellow on that defensive depth chart. So
yeah, they wiped out the defense completely. We went into the season without a free safety. Had to make Mike Furry a free. We didn't have one. We went in season without a guard, without a starting left guard.
Yeah,
we were playing in 04. We played Kansas City in the 4th preseason game, the last one.
mm-hmm.
And we had 6 offensive linemen on the roster. You're supposed to have 12 at that point, right?
Yeah.
And I saw Dick after the game. They blew us out, and I did as little as I could just to keep our guys healthy. And he came over and he said, "Hey, I saw you left your starter, the offensive line." And so we kept going out. I said, "Dick, please. We only have 6. I didn't have a choice. I had to leave them. You think they're happy about being in there? Don't give me that crap, And
you didn't have a second team to put in.
no, that's and he looked at me and says, "You got to be kidding me." He said, "No, you've been here. You've been through them. You know how they work."
Yeah. Yeah. That's Mike Martz. I'm Jim Thomas. We'll be back to talk about Week 10 on Talking Football.
Are you ready for a challenging and rewarding career? There are quality jobs in the construction industry.
I got out of college and my career choices were very limited, and this provided me with a plan for the present and the future at the same time.
I actually have a bachelor's degree in psychology, and I was making less than I make as a first-year apprentice painter.
I didn't go to college. I have no college debt. I make more money than the majority of people I know that went to college.
Take your first step towards a rewarding career. Visit stlouispdf.org.
We're back on Talking Football. You can listen to us every Thursday. Can you actually listen to us live, Joe? Shoot me a text like while we're doing this now. Or can people be watching this now? Anyway, we're on Claves Online. You can get us on YouTube. You can get us on Spotify. Just anywhere you get your podcast from. So anyway, Week 10, we've got 4 byes this week. The Browns are off. Boy, Jameis Winston last week, I shouldn't laugh. He sure didn't look like the savior last week, did he, Mike, that he did in his first week? He had a rough go of it.
He did. I'm not so sure that was Jameis Winston as much as it was. I don't think the head coach had ever given up the play calling.
Oh, I thought did he turn it over to Dorsey or no?
Yeah, he did. He shouldn't have done that. You go
back.
back.
You're saying he shouldn't have given it up.
Yeah, he should have never done that. And I think that I would look at that much harder than I would look at the play of the quarterback. I don't think that. I just watched what they were doing, and it didn't look like them. Yeah, it was not good. And Dorsey does not have a track record that's you look at and say, oh yeah, he's pretty good.
Hand him the playbook. Raiders also off this week, which is good since they have like half their offensive coaching staff they're replacing. Packers off, which will help the groin injury that Jordan Love had, and the Seahawks are off this week. The Thursday night game, an AFC North matchup, Bengals 4-5 at Ravens 6-3. Ravens are 6-point favorites. They've always been a strong rushing team. This stat just blew my mind, Mike. They've rushed for at least 100 yards as a team in 42 straight games. That's one off the NFL record, which is shared by Pittsburgh and the Ravens. Quite a rushing team for the Bengals. Obviously they missed Joe Mixon. Now Chase Brown, who I watched play several times on TV when he was at Illinois at running back, he's not making anyone forget Joe Mixon, but he did rush for a career high 120 yards last week versus the Raiders. I think Higgins is still out with a quad. How do you see this one, Mike?
Well, it's at Baltimore, and these two historically, one could be bad, the other one great, but they always come down to the final play or so. Mm-hmm. It's going to be another dogfight, but I do think that Baltimore is just too good. They're just too good right now, and they've got that vision now. They understand how good they are. Flowers was a hit or miss receiver for so long, and all of a sudden he's showing up every week. So, yeah. And defensively, they've started to morph back into what you would expect them to be. I just think they're too good right now at home.
Yeah. So you're going with the Ravens. I'm going with the Ravens. The last of the overseas games this season, Giants at Raiders, 2-2-7 teams. It's in Munich. Mike, you ever been to Germany?
I have. I've landed there, but
Little layover. That's it, huh?
just a little layover. Yeah.
Yeah. Daniel Jones, how is this possible? Last week he had 0 passing yards in the first half against Washington, but he did have a passing touchdown. Isn't that crazy?
So I would just tell you that I've told you about Daniel Jones now for 2 years. As soon as they move him on to greener pastures, wherever that might be, then they'll have a chance because they're a well-coached team. He's a good
You've
football
said
coach.
that too on many occasions.
He's
You
a
really like
good coach, but this kid will just absolutely hold him hostage.
Yeah. Mike, you're on a roll now. Save some of this. We're only mid-season. I don't want you to burn out before the playoffs start, okay? But who do you like in this one, Giants or Panthers?
Panthers. I think Bryce Young has kind of figured it out a little bit, and I don't think the Giants. You know what I think of the Giants, so I think of Daniel Jones. So that's
Okay, I'm going to stick with you, Panthers. Sometimes the games between bad teams are pretty entertaining, but not always. Okay, some early games. Bills at Colts. Bills 7-2. Colts 4-5. The Colts have lived on the edge all year, even switching quarterbacks. Every one of their games has been a one-possession game. They're staying with Flacco. The Bills, as we mentioned, are finding ways to win. You called it last week on the Colts and Vikings, even though the Colts had been playing pretty well. You said, listen, with Flacco, he's going to have a hard time against the Vikings pass rush. And it wasn't overwhelming. I think the Vikings only had
these rushes.
But there were a lot of times where, boy, if he could have just moved a little better to his right or a couple steps. And the dude's he's like almost 40 years old. So it was
we went to high school together, I think.
You did, huh? I'll be darned. Anyway, 4.5 point. You like the Bills here? It's at Indy, but
I do. But this is an upset alert. I think the Bills win this. I do, but I do think that for the first time, I saw some real life in the defense in terms of getting pressure on the quarterback and doing some good
for the
things.
Colts, you mean?
For the Colts, so
yeah.
But they're just not. Their Bills are just a better team, and and he's too good a coach at the Bills to have an up and down. They come at you every week. They don't have any, ebb and flow kind of deals.
But you make a point there because the Bills don't have the best pass rush.
No, they
don't. Right now is constructed. That was an issue last week with Flacco. He may have more time to throw, and Flacco's he's got some moxie.
He does. That's why I say it's an upset alert here. I mean, this could absolutely they're primed for it, but I just don't think they can slow the Bills down.
Yeah. Okay, Broncos at Chiefs. Chiefs are 9-point favorites, which is a lot. 8-0, 6 one-score victories, one possession. This is a great AFC West rivalry, but we talked before last week, Broncos and Ravens. The Broncos are, that's the boxing expression, punching up in class. They're doing it again this week. That was a reality check for the Broncos against the Ravens. The KC offense looks a little better. Mike, I don't see the Broncos finding a path here. What do you think?
Well, it's scary. It's a scary deal for the Chiefs because the Broncos were better than what they played last week. In the first quarter, when it ended, I thought the Broncos were going to win that game. They were playing really well. And
really?
They had a broken coverage. They had a couple things go wrong, and the floodgates. I don't think Kansas City's that kind of offense, but
no.
I think if I would take the points and the Broncos if I was going to bet on this thing, but I think Kansas City probably wins this. But I will tell you, it won't be easy.
Okay. Chiefs under Spagnuolo, time immemorial. They're right there on defense. They're 5th in the league in total defense, which is yards allowed. 49ers at Bucks. 49ers coming off a bye week. They could have, I'm not saying for sure, we don't know yet as we do the show here, they could have Christian McCaffrey back. Both teams have 4 wins. Again, the Bucks have yet to have a bye. They're 4-5. It's at Tampa. Mike, your thoughts? Who do you like?
I'm gonna pick the Bucks here.
Okay.
I just think they're just can't San Francisco just is not defensively, just not ever, they underachieve. And and this is a tough game to go clear across the country for the 49ers. They don't do it at all during the season. And this they'll probably go out on Friday, and all that good stuff. So I think this has got a chance of being a real tough game for the 49ers. I'd love to see the 49ers win this one, but I don't think they will.
You almost talked me out of it, but this will be the first one we differ. I'm going to go 49ers, but you're right. And Mayfield, he's playing great. I'm fumbling through my notes here. There was a great stat on his play. Okay, here it is. He threw 7 picks in his first 3 games, but he had no turnovers Monday. And the Bucs, they're 4-5, but 3 of their 5 losses have been 1-score games, 2 of them in overtime. So the Bucs are probably the best 4-5 team on the planet, I would think.
I think so.
Okay, this might be the game of the week. Steelers at Commanders. Steelers 6-2. They had a bye. Commanders 7-2. It's their best start since 1996 when Mike Martz was a young, bookish-looking wide receivers coach with the Rams under Rich Big Daddy Brooks. So that's a long time ago, Mike. Russell Wilson has really come on. The Commanders, I think, are the surprise of the league.
They are, particularly Jaden Daniels. I think I don't know when I've ever seen a rookie quarterback play as good as he's played.
Is he your rookie of the year at the midseason?
I don't think there's any question about it. I think he's a rookie of the year, no matter what happens at this point. But I think defensively, though, Washington's really struggled. And you just can't – in games like this, you just don't bet against Mike Tomlin. I don't care who he's got. He finds a way to win. He's just, to me, pound for pound, he's the best head coach in the league. He gets it done.
For all the stuff he's done, Tomlin, I think he's very underappreciated. So you're going Steelers?
I'm going to go Steelers. These are the kinds of games that he lives for.
Right.
His guys will be up. They will be physical, and they'll have a good plan for Jaden, and they will beat him up physically.
All right. You talked me out of it. I was going to go Commanders, but that's a pretty convincing argument. I'm going to go Steelers. And you mentioned the Commanders defense. Now, they did really the trade deadline Tuesday. There were some moves, but the only one that caught my attention, because the big moves with the receivers happened in the past few weeks. But the Commanders picking up cornerback Marshawn Lattimore,
right,
acquired from the Saints. They gave up 3 draft picks for him, a 3rd rounder being the highest. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler, but he still has a hamstring injury. I don't think he's going to play this week.
Oh, he can't play this week. He won't make a difference, even if the hamstring was. You still got to get lined up and know the system and all that stuff. So
yeah, but over the long haul, that's going to help him.
It's a huge get for him. It is, yeah.
And it shows, if you're a player, that's got to show the front office ownership has confidence. The Commanders are going for it. They're going for it. They don't want to just be a feel-good story. They want to get.
They want to make it happen right now. Exactly. It's like Detroit picking up the rusher. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Lions and Texans Sunday Night Football. C.J. Stroud struggling. The Lions get Jamison Williams back after a 2-game suspension. Lions favored by 3.
I think with that offensive line right now at Houston, it'll be a bloodbath. I think Detroit will just dismantle them. Yeah. They're too good. They're the best coach team in the league. They know what they're doing. They have a plan. They execute it. And I don't know how they're going to stop that running game. Nobody's figured it out yet. So they'll go after CJ. I'm watching them trying to block their inside guys on Stroud, and that poor kid, he may not make it out of this game.
Yeah, he has really been under siege the last few weeks. So both of us taking the Lions. A Monday night game, Dolphins at Rams. Rams have won 3 in a row. Dolphins near misses the last couple of games. We talked about them. The Rams, Nakua and Cooper Kupp back. Although Nakua, what did he do? He punched somebody and got tossed out of the game.
Well, yeah, the guy, it was kind of odd, really. The guy was kind of harassing him a little bit, said something to him. He turned around and kind of punched him. But, yeah, I thought it was a bit much. But, You
You were surprised he got tossed, or
oh yeah, I mean that happens almost every play. I mean,
maybe you give him a penalty, but don't toss him. Yeah,
two wide receivers fighting. By the way, is like a pillow fight. I mean, come on, really.
Nobody's going to hurt it. Nobody's going to hurt anybody there.
Yeah, just slap fest is what it is,
Michael, who do you like there, Rams or Dolphins?
Oh man, I want the Rams to win this one, but I'll tell you what, the Dolphins are just really hitting on all cylinders right now. I think with the two-man running game that they have with Tyreek Hill and Tua back, I just don't know if they can slow them down. It'll be a scoring match. It's in LA, I know that, and it's hard to bet against them. But I'm gonna go with the Dolphins. I tell you what, it's an emotional game for them.
Yeah, I thought we were going to differ on this, but I'm going with the Dolphins. I just don't sleep on Miami right now. Maybe it'll change. Don't sleep on Miami. They got all the horses back. Okay, I saved this for last. Now, in any other year, this would be the game of the week, but the Cowboys aren't cooperating. Eagles 6-2 at Dallas. Dallas, by the way, Mike, 3-5 on the season, but 0-3 at home. They haven't won a game at Jerry Jones's playpen there. This is the 3:25 p.m. afternoon game. We know Prescott is going to be out several weeks. I think they put him on IR, which means he won't with a hamstring. He'll be out till at least December 9. The Eagles 9th in scoring defense. So their edge rushers, maybe a little bit of an issue, but I think their secondary is playing better than maybe we thought at the beginning. They're giving up less than 20 points a game. Without Prescott, I can't see it happen. Now, Cooper Rush isn't bad, I can't see it happening.
He's good, but I think it's more at this point about Philadelphia now is finally play, and the quarterback's playing. I mean, he's really playing now. So
and making some downfield throws, which he hasn't always.
He hasn't done it for a while. So I do think that they're much better. They don't even remotely resemble what they did in the first 3 weeks of the season. They're completely different. Now they're kind of becoming the team that you thought they should be this year. And playing Dallas in Dallas,
yes,
that's a I hate you game. They will try, if they can score 100, they'll score 100.
This is a great rivalry. And you mentioned it struggled early, especially on offense. Philly, new coordinator Kellen Moore. Did he come over from the Cowboys? I'm not sure. But anyway, it probably takes a while to get used to a new coordinator, right?
This will be a bloodline because he's going to be upset with.
Oh, he is an ex-Cowboy. Okay, I thought I was right there.
Yeah, he went to the Chargers. It was there 2 years, got fired, but before that, he was at
Cowboys.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Jalen Hurts, 7 giveaways, first 4 games. Guess how many giveaways the last 4? 0. He's playing some smart football.
Well, the last 4 games as a team, they're really playing excellent football. So, and Dallas hasn't played good football all year. So
no. Chris from Syracuse, who we haven't heard from. Chris, come on, are you still listening? Chris from Syracuse should be happy. He's a huge Eagles fan. We've Mike Martz and I given the Eagles some props. Cowboys.
They might score 50 on this one.
Ezekiel Elliott suspended by the team. St. Louis Ezekiel Elliott late to several meetings. That's tough when it happens with a veteran, isn't it? Apparently,
that's really bad. And then they got a defensive lineman they let out of there in the trade deadline too. So the locker room's in bad shape down there. Just the whole attitude of that team is not good.
Well, I think, and again, from afar, could be an easy second guess. Excuse me. It looks like a roster built on star power. Whereas you look at Detroit's got stars, don't get me wrong, but Detroit, you get more of a team vibe from them. Can that be a difference?
It's leadership. It's always about leadership, Jim. Danny's a strong leader. He's well connected with his players. I'm not saying Mike isn't. He's obviously proven it. But I don't think Mike's got a particularly strong staff there in certain areas. I watch him play. I know the defensive line coach is really good. He's excellent. But I do know offensively, I watch him, and it's hard to watch.
Mike, you're on fire this week. I'm going to give you the Mike Martz Tight End of the Week award instead of a tight end. And the last thing, the Achilles heel. There it is. All right. Michael Martz with the sideburns and a little bit of a snarl. You've got a little bit of a
I'll tell you
snarl.
what happened. I was looking right into the sun, and I squinted. He said, "Open."
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Last set, we know the Achilles heel, among other things, so the Cowboys can't run the ball. They entered last week 32nd in rushing. They actually had a good week running the ball. They moved up to 31st, but not that he's Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley, but letting Tony Pollard go walk in free agency. Big
Well,
mistake.
that's the thing about the Cowboys that was demoralizing for that team is there was no effort to improve the team at all in the offseason.
Yeah.
They just didn't do it for whatever reason. And I don't know whether he's taking a mulligan on the year or what, but they didn't do anything to improve themselves. Now, that offensive line is not playing well at all.
Well, Mike, in closing, I'll say I'm still going through the Halloween candy, so I need to get on the diet here. After
You're right. I knocked that off a couple of days ago. There's candy wrappers all over the room there.
Oh my goodness. But the wife already, like, Halloween's over, boom, the Christmas tree's up. The guy that puts the lights on, she doesn't trust me to get up on the roof anymore. She thinks like I'm an old man and I'm going to fall, but it's already up. She goes straight, like Thanksgiving is just a pit stop, although we love the food.
Yeah, we've had our lights up for 2 weeks, but we haven't turned them on. But they're up. They're
You
ready
got
to
them
go.
up, huh? All right.
Yeah, the Christmas tree won't go up until the week before Thanksgiving. We're having the whole family, grandkids, everybody's coming in for the week on Thanksgiving, so we'll wait till they get here to put the tree up.
I got you. Mike, it's been a blast. We'll talk to you next week. This has been Talking Football with Mike Martz and JT.
Nobody wants a surprise in their jelly donut. That's because the middle is the most important part. At Graybar, we're at the middle of electrical and datacom jobs across the country, connecting installers, facility managers, and business owners with smart solutions for their most challenging projects, which means stocking and delivering crucial products on time and on budget, with no surprises, thanks to our nationwide logistics network. Yep, Graybar does that.
Who's this?